Hi everyone, it's Annie. So this video I wanted to tell you my November TBR. I picked around 8 to 10 books that I'm hoping to read this November. Two of them I'm still on the waiting list from my library, so I'm hoping that those books come by the end of November, but we'll see. So let's get right into it. So the first book I want to read is called The Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek by Kim Michelle Richardson. And it's not something I would usually go for. On Goodreads, it was listed as historical fiction / romance, but the premise seemed really interesting to me. This woman is part of the Blue people somewhere in Appalachia, so it just seems really interesting, and I'm looking forward to reading it. The next book I want to read has been on my TBR for so long, and I feel like it's pretty popular, especially in the circles that I'm around, because I live in Japan. It is Strange Weather in Tokyo by Hiromi Kawakami, and it's about this girl who meets one of her old high school teachers in a bar, and things happen. I don't really know anything else about it other than that, but this year, I guess, and 2021, I really want to read more Japanese authors, so that's the start of that. Another book by a Japanese author that I really have been wanting to read for so long is Tokyo Ueno Station by Miri Yu. And all I know about it is that it follows this guy named Kazu over his years. So I'm really interested in reading it. You might also notice that a lot of the books on my TBR this month are quite short. I guess they're novellas, but October I read quite a few very long, very intense books, so I felt like I needed something a little lighter this month. And another Japanese novella that I want to read this month is called Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikawa Kawaguchi. And I heard about this book recently from another booktuber, Life Goofer, and I was really interested by the premise. It's about this cafe in Tokyo. It follows 4 separate stories of people who go to this cafe, and you can sit in a chair that lets you go back in time. But the trick is that you have to stay sitting in the chair, and you have to return to the present before your coffee gets cold. So it seems really interesting, and it's also going to be a pretty quick read, so I'm looking forward to it. The next book on my TBR, I'm not going to technically be starting this November. I actually started reading it in 2019, and I stopped about halfway through the book in August of 2019, so it's been over a year now that I've read it, and I remember liking it and being interested in it, but for some reason I just put it down and never picked it back up. And that book is Oil and Marble by Stephanie Story. And it's a historical fiction novel about Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo. So that's right up my alley, honestly. I really don't know why I ever stopped reading it. I think my loan expired and I just never reordered it. I don't know why. But I'd really like to finish it. I want to really finish things up this year. 2020 has been so bad in so many ways, and it will just make me feel like I accomplished something. One of the books that I'm most excited to read this month is another novella, and it's The Order of the Pure Moon Reflected in Water by Zencho. And it's been described to me as a fantasy novella set in an Asian setting full of queer martial arts. So that sounds awesome, and I usually love everything to do about that, so I'm really anticipating that that's gonna be hopefully a 5-star read for me this month. One of my other really highly anticipated reads of November is To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers. And I've wanted to read this book since I saw Emily Fox, another booktuber, talking about it. It's another novella, and it's my favorite genre, sci-fi. I don't really know anything else other than that, but it's gotten some really good reviews, so I'm really looking forward to it. This month, for a nonfiction read, I want to read Midnight in Chernobyl by Adam Higginbotham. I think I pronounced that right. Obviously, it's about the nuclear disaster in Chernobyl. I really don't know anything about that, but I'm very interested in the Soviet Union and its history, so I'd like to learn more about it, and I'm hoping that this book will be good. And my mom read it and gave it 5 stars, so I trust her. Okay, another book that I started last year is this one, Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto. And obviously this is a Japanese edition. I was using it to study. You can see I circled words. It's okay, this was a secondhand copy. I got it for like $2 at the local book off, and it's super famous, a really good book. And I really want to read it. It's also quite short. But it's in Japanese, and honestly, it's just really hard to get through because reading Japanese literature in Japanese is hard. So, but I really want to finish it, so I'm thinking I'll give it another go, this copy that I have anyway. And if it's too hard to really grasp the meaning enough, then I'll try and find an English version somewhere. Hopefully my library has it. Another very short book I want to read is How to Relax by Thich Nhat Hanh from his mindfulness series. Again, 2020 has been very difficult, so just something, a quick read. I don't think it'll be easy, but it's important, and I'm always stressed out, so I really need to learn how to relax, and I've read a bunch of his other books, so I trust him. And I've been on the waiting list for a while for 2 books, 2 really highly anticipated books of 2020 that are all over Booktube. One of them is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, and the premise of this book is just so interesting. This girl dies or is almost dead or something, and she goes to this mystical library where she can review the events of her life and see what she regrets and whether she would change anything. I think that is its premise. I'm not sure if I got any parts of it wrong, but it sounds so interesting. It's getting good reviews, and I really want to read it, but it's like 6 weeks. I'm on the waiting list still for it, so I don't know if it'll come in time for the end of November. And the other book that I'm on the waiting list for is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. Another really popular book. I've been on the waiting list for it. It says it won't come for another 8 weeks. Okay, so I probably won't be able to read it this November, but I'm really hoping to be able to read it by the end of 2020. But who knows, sometimes people borrow a book and then give it back right away. So I'm hoping that I can read it this month or in December. And that's it for my November TBR. So these books are just books that I'm hoping to read in November. I'll probably read most of them, if not all, I'm not sure, but I don't really like to limit myself. I kind of just pick whatever book I want in the moment. So if I decide to read another book that I didn't list here, then you will find out in my November wrap-up at the end of the month. Thanks for watching! Bye.